Welcome back to the show, everyone. On today's episode, I'm excited to have Laura Stewart join me. She is a co-founder of From the Ground Up Media. Laura, welcome to the show.
Vijay, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Hey, it's great to have you. I know you and I actually got in touch with someone else who I interviewed on the podcast, Jazz. You work with him.
I do. I've worked with him for 8 years now. So for your listeners and watchers, Jazz Tacker was I don't know when it was on, but probably within the last year. And he is my business partner on the media company. And he owns the company for which I'm the VP for, which is our real estate company, which is called REC Canada.
That's amazing. So you guys work hand in hand with two different companies, but very closely together.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you think you're crazy for getting deeper into situations with the same person, but we've managed to just finagle our way through it all, and we're having a blast.
That's amazing. Okay, so I know with Jazz, we talked more about the real estate side, and he said, you got to talk to Laura. She's the media person, the marketing person that you need to talk to. So I'm like, oh, this is great. So he gave us the introduction, and I'm really excited to have you on the show.
Awesome.
So let's kind of dive into it. Let's talk about what is From the Ground Up Media and what do you guys do?
So From the Ground Up Media is the long name for a company that we founded just over a year ago. Last week was actually our 1-year anniversary. We call it Fitigu Media for short, FTGU, just because, we thought that would be kind of cool to make a little acronym out of it. And it really was, the company kind of came about out of an opportunity that seemingly kept landing on our desk. And what I mean by that is in 2018, for the real estate company, REC Canada, Jazz and I were talking about ways in which we thought we could market better to our clients, just our database that we already had. So it wasn't really about going wide and getting a bunch of new interested people in. It was, how can we bring more value to the people who already know us, like us, and trust us? So we started a podcast with the intent of providing educational content. So conversations with real estate lawyers, mortgage brokers, insurance people, and home inspectors, you name it, we kind of spoke with them about the real estate side of things. What happened though after about 13 episodes was I said, I'm almost bored of our own content. Like, how much real estate conversations can we have? And so we thought, what other things can we talk about? Because not everybody is always in the mindset of buying or selling real estate. Even if they're investors, which is the majority of our database, they're not always in that headspace of I want more real estate. And so how can we entertain those people or provide them with value when they're not thinking about wanting our service, right? Buying or selling our service. And so we thought, okay, well, let's kind of open it up to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship. And that kind of spiraled into an amazing podcast show. Well, I think it's amazing, but I'm probably a bit biased there. It's called the Jazz Tacker podcast, where Jazz really interviews amazing people in the entrepreneurship space. Sometimes it's about real estate. Sometimes it's just about entrepreneurship or leadership. And in that, we kind of found that we were able to personalize him and give him a true brand. And that allowed people to connect with him kind of one-on-one, building that trust. So when it did come time to help where people wanted us to help them buy or sell real estate, the trust was already built, even if we had never met in person, right? So they would come in and say, oh my gosh, Jazz, Laura, I see you on the podcast. This is amazing. And it really allowed us to better serve our clients. And so with that, though, a lot of agents in the industry started taking note of what we were doing. So, I say this just to kind of give context to it. So we have the number one team at our brokerage, but we're top 3 in the whole country. And so people started thinking, okay, well, if they're doing well, what is it that they're doing? And they started realizing we were producing all this content, podcast shows, and then chopping that all up into micro content to put on our socials. And so we were, going hard on the social media angle. And we would have people ask us, how can I do this for myself? And we told them, we gave them the blueprint. We literally gave them a guide. I think it's a 13-page guide on how they can produce their own podcast show. And 3 months later, we check back up with these agents who we met with and say, hey, how's it going? They say, I haven't done anything. I didn't know who to hire. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what equipment to buy. And I could tell that they were, some of the excuses, valid or not, they were ultimately just getting in their own way. And what they would ask us is, well, you guys already have the team. Can we just use your team? And we'd say, no, the team is our team. Like they're already busy doing our media. But then we were asked again and again and again. And that was kind of the birth of the company. I never intended on being an owner of a media business. In all honesty, that never, ever crossed my mind. But I think sometimes in life, this is one of those like when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, right? And this was literally almost handed to us.
That is such an incredible story. Oh my gosh, there's so many directions I want to take this. So let's back up. I mean, you talked and you gave such a lot of value right here, but something that stuck out to me is you mentioned that you don't really want to grow more relationships. You just want to make your relationships you already have a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the advantage you see in that rather than kind of a larger scope kind of strategy?
I think in real estate, we see this often. It is the mindset of real estate agents that they want to generate leads. It's always about new leads, Google leads. How can I meet new people? What they're looking for is the low hanging fruit. Low hanging fruit being someone who's like, I want to buy something, I want to sell something right now, and they can get a deal done in the next couple weeks. Unfortunately, though, where they're missing is the real gold, which is that over the course of years, you have developed a lot of relationships, you've met a lot of people, but what you forgot to do is follow up with them. You've, in essence, neglected them because you were always looking for that low hanging fruit or the shiny object, right? Like, what's right in front of me today? And you can do an amazing amount of business if you just focus on the people who you already know. And I always say it doesn't matter. Like right now, our database is over 11,000 people, but we grew that over 13 years. So that could easily be 100 people today. Everyone knows, at least 50 people. You could write 50 people down. You have their phone numbers and their email address. You can do an amazing business just off of those 50 people. Now, that doesn't mean those 50 people are buying or selling with you this year, but those 50 people know other people. And so if you're giving them value and you're constantly in their awareness, say through social media, for example, say I did a post today and you weren't, Vijay, you weren't thinking about buying or selling today and you go off to work, but then you have a conversation with a colleague and the colleague says, I'm thinking about selling my house. Do you know anybody? If I wasn't in your feed earlier that day, you probably would say, you know what? No, I don't. I haven't sold my house in 20 years or whatever it is. But now all of a sudden I'm top of mind. And I think people miss the opportunity of just establishing those referral networks within their current database. That's where all the gold is, in all honesty. Stop worrying about the new leads. Just focus on what you already have.
That's amazing. Well, thanks so much for that, going deeper into that. So this 13-page guide that you gave to a bunch of people and they did nothing about it, what was the reason you think that they weren't able to get results?
I am guilty of this too. And so I feel like I'm not sitting here on my chair preaching to anybody today by any means. I think it's just human nature. Things that are new feel very difficult and scary, and it's in our nature to protect ourselves from the new, from the unknown. And I think when it comes to content creation, it forces you as an individual to be vulnerable because you have to put your face on the camera. I have to see what you look like, or at least hear your voice. Maybe you're doing an audio only podcast. Maybe if it's a blog, I don't have to see you or hear you, but I'm still reading your words. And there's always a sense of vulnerability that comes with that. And as adults, we've gotten so good at protecting ourselves, whether you suffered serious trauma or just regular things that happen in people's lives where you're putting on these layers to protect yourself. You protected yourself through high school. Then you somehow made it through your early 20s when you didn't know what you were doing in the workforce and you kind of faked it till you make it. All these things that we do to protect ourselves. And now when you put yourself on camera, you have to kind of take these layers off. And I think people hide behind all these excuses and just in order to not feel that sense of discomfort. So I'll hear things like, I didn't know who to hire. Well, what do you mean you didn't know who to hire? I told you who to hire. I even gave you the Indeed write-up. All you had to do was copy and paste it and put it on Indeed. So I told you who to hire. Oh, I don't have any money. I also explained how to do it by yourself, and all you need is a phone. Well, I didn't have the right equipment. Again, all you need is the phone. And so the worst one I just got to finish this off. The worst one I hear is, I'm a perfectionist. I'm a perfectionist and I don't like the quality of the video. I don't like the quality of the content. I don't like how I look in it. I want to wait until I get my hair done. I want to wait until I lose 5 pounds. I want to wait until the pimple goes away on my forehead, whatever it is, right? And these are all, perfection really is just a word that it stands for fear, right? You're scared of the judgment of others. And I think that's truly what's holding people back. And it did it with me. And so that's why I can say this with the utmost confidence, that this is 99% of where people's issues stem from when they want to think about producing content.
That's so great that you said that. And I'm gonna admit something which I don't think I've ever publicly said, but one of the reasons I started the podcast and started posting a lot more on Instagram, social media, is because of how scary it is. And so to push myself outside of my own comfort zone, and yeah, you're right, the vulnerability, the fear, the judgment, everything is so real, right? And the only way for me personally, I have that personality. It's like, oh, it's terrifying. Let's do it. Skydiving, for example. I love skydiving now because I was terrified of it. I'm like, let's jump out of a plane. Same thing with this, right? Fear of judgment from your peers. So thank you so much for.
Yeah, it's so funny. I think, we just are big kids. We're just bigger version of children, right? And I have become so much more empathetic now to other people's the walls that they've put up. I mean, I thought I was the only insecure person walking around, and I was trying to hide it. But now I've realized it truly is everybody. And I think if you come from that attitude, like you, Vijay, where you're like, is that something scary? Let me embrace it. Let me go toward it. It's not that you're not scared. Like, it's not that I didn't get a little bit nervous when I'm coming on here to do this show. And it's not that life didn't get in my way earlier this morning. We just had a robbery at our office this morning. A whole bunch of stuff got stolen over the weekend. And then I tried to do a video recording before the one with you, and none of the equipment was working. And life does get in the way, but you got to find a way to get over it, to get over the panic, to get over the excuses, and just do it anyway. And so kudos to you, because you're right. It is scary. It's scary putting yourself out there.
Thank you. I'm so sorry to hear about that robbery. Hope everything's okay.
Well, luckily no one was here, but we have some expensive equipment and stuff around, and it's our own fault. Look, at the end of the day, you have to kind of look at everything like we didn't properly lock up. We were all too excited to get away for the weekend, and now it's about thinking what we can do for the future. Am I a little peeved? Yeah. The first time I heard that something was stolen, I'm pissed off like everybody else, but I had to move on because I want to come and I want to perform for my man Vijay, who's taking his precious time to interview me today. It wouldn't be fair if I bring all that baggage, right? And so
Yeah.
you gotta learn how to leave your baggage at the door, and content creation forces you to do that more than almost anything I can think of that I've done.
Absolutely. So going into that 13-page guide, I'm curious myself, even though I have a podcast set up and everything, can I get a copy of it, or is it very exclusive to your?
No, everyone. So this is the thing that we gave away for free. And so what I would tell you and all your listeners, just hit me up in DM on Instagram, and I'll send you all the links. Everyone can get the links to it. And that's truly a great place to start. But again, don't just use it as a crutch. Like, let me just get the information. Vijay, you're already doing it, but I'm sure some of your listeners just want the information, and then they're going to do nothing with it. And so I just implore people, please, 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 if you go down the path of taking the time to read it, even if you just take one nugget from it and focus all your efforts for the next 2 months on that, you're already that much better off than you were today.
That's definitely right. So you being in the real estate business, and tell me about how you got started, because it's a very commission-based, relationship-based business without any safety or steady income stream, right? At least when you're first getting started. So let's go a little bit personal. Could you talk about the financial side when you first got started and how it was?
Yeah, I'm already laughing because you're taking me back 8 years ago now when I first started in real estate. I had just finished doing my MBA. And so I'm now, career woman, wanting to get started, hungry. I had watched every single $1 million listing episode, and I thought, I am going to do luxury real estate. I actually live on the wrong side of the tracks, but very close to where I live is a pretty high net worth area. And so I thought, okay, just get the right car, wear the right clothes, and I'm going to land some business. I actually had the fortunate or unfortunate beginner's luck syndrome, we'll call it. So I was working 2 weeks, and I somehow landed my first listing. It was a tear down property that sold for $1.3 million. And a tear down, right? So no one even had to see the house. We weren't doing any showings. It was walk the lot only. And I sold that puppy in 3 days. And I thought, I am a genius. I have this figured out. Like, no one's going to see me coming. Then a couple weeks later, I got another listing and sold that property, helped the seller buy a new property, and I double ended it. So I found the buyer for that property as well. So I'm like, I went from making $0 a year while at school, like running up some debt, to now all of a sudden, like in a 3 month period, I've made $75,000. Like I was like, I'm a hero. Every real estate agent should do what I'm doing. And then guess what happened, Vijay?
What happened?
Crickets, crickets, crickets. I didn't get another deal for like another year. And I, was high on my own supply. I must admit, I didn't take the steps that really were going to help me with a business. Like I didn't have a database. I wasn't following up with people. I wasn't calling people. I was kind of resting on my laurels, as a lot of people do, new to any industry, particularly if you have some success. And so in some ways, I almost wish I didn't have any success at the start because I would have been hungrier. But I got slapped around for sure. And those were tough times. Luckily, I was married, and I'm still am married, but my husband at the time was very supportive, and understood that this is going to be a process and it's going to take time. He's in real estate as well. He does commercial real estate, so he's also a commission-based salesperson. So he got it, like he understood it, and he wasn't trying to pressure me to, maybe quit and find a full-time job by any means. But yeah, those times are tough. I think, looking back now, I have admiration for that time. I actually enjoy the story because the struggle is really where the beauty comes from, right? Like if it was just easy, imagine that. Like that's my real estate story. I just 2 weeks into the business and now I'm crushing it, and I never had that downtime. I mean, what fun is that?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad everything worked out. I mean, so after that, how did you get back on track? I mean, a whole year without anything. And then what was that moment where you're like, okay, I can actually make money now again?
I think for me, what it really came from was self awareness. So I remember sitting at home and I was doing work from home, dabbling here and there, but like I wouldn't get out of my pajamas until like 11. I probably took a nap in the afternoon. I wasn't working all that hard. I wasn't that inspired. And I remember talking to my husband saying like I miss working with people. That to me was the hard part about real estate. It's actually a very, very lonely business, particularly if you're not on a team or you're working for yourself and you don't have even like an admin person. You're really doing it all by yourself. It's actually quite lonely. And I said, I want to be around people. I need that. I need a reason to get up. I need people to talk to. I need to build relationships, not just with clients, because, if you're selling someone's house, you know them for a brief period of time, and then most people don't follow up with them. You don't really establish a true friendship, right? And so I just decided to come into work and put my hand up. There was a team, that REC Canada. I was already on the team, but I wasn't working for the core part of the team. And I remember asking Jazz, who we were speaking about earlier, do you guys need any help with anything? Like, can I do anything for you guys? Get you coffee? Can I get your printouts? Can I make a spreadsheet for you guys? And ironically, because they were such good salespeople, they weren't necessarily good at all the admin stuff. And I knew that space very, very well, just all my previous experiences. So I kind of made myself very useful. I put my hand up all the time to do stuff for them with no expectation of getting paid, simply just to get in the room, and knowing that people were expecting me to come into work, and knowing that people started to care about me and I cared about them, and it was a team effort. And of course, eventually that turned into me, what I think being, everyone is disposable, so I'm certainly not going to say that, but it certainly made it hard for them to want to get rid of me, because if they had, then they would have had to now take on all the work that I had already taken off their plate. And so what we did was we ended up creating a nice little role for myself. Now I am the VP of that company. So in I think 2 years, I kind of went from just being an agent on the team to being VP. So we have a team of 54 agents, and they have their own book of business, and we do a lot of trainings and things like that to help them. But the core part of our team, there's about 6 of us who really run our 11,000 person database. And we do a little over 200 transactions with those people a year. And what's interesting is I now work with investors. So I don't work with people who are in the luxury market. It's not fancy at all. I actually never leave my office. really, which is weird for a real estate agent. I do most of what I do from my desk because I sell pre-construction condos, and so I'm sending blueprints, I'm sending marketing materials to people, and I can do everything else all from the phones. And I like I said, it starts with self-awareness to know what are you good at. It's stop trying to put a square peg in a round hole. I knew that I wasn't a natural salesperson, and for me to be the sole person phone calling people. I hated calls as a kid. I wouldn't even order pizza as a kid. My parents, honestly, they said, if you don't order the pizza tonight for the family, you don't get to eat. And I'd say, I guess I won't eat. And then my parents would obviously say, I called their bluff, and they would say, okay, we'll order the pizza. But I don't like calling people. It's not in me to ask people for things and to ask for favors. Even when I'm paying them, I find it awkward to ask people for stuff. And so I think everyone kind of needs to just find their place in life. We don't all need to be the extroverted, confident person who's super excited all the time and comes with all the energy in the world. That works for some people. Other people, they're more introverted, they're quiet, they do a lot more reflection. And so I think finding your role, you can always figure out a way to finagle a place that works right for you.
Well, that's great. Thanks so much for sharing that. I mean, yeah, she got me all hungry. So it's around lunchtime too. But when you're talking about working with investors, how are you, I guess, switching more into the sales generation side of this conversation? How do you find them, or how do you generate the leads, and how do you actually close? I mean, you're sitting in your office. How do you, I guess, build these relationships to get investors to trust you, or is it very transactional working with that type of clientele?
Yeah, working with investors has been completely eye-opening. I love it because there is an element where the emotion has kind of been taken away from it. Obviously, people are still forking out a lot of money, so the emotion's not gone, but it's not, oh, do I see my family living here? Do I see my children growing up in the backyard? That element is kind of gone, so it's really more about crunching the numbers and obviously finding opportunities for people that work. Again, in terms of lead generation, what we've mostly done is cultivated the database that we already have. We started working with, for example, a brain surgeon. We found them through a educational company who educates people on investing in real estate, and we were kind of the one of the suppliers. And we did a unit with that one person. So they purchased a pre-construction condo with us. And then over the course of the next couple of years, we continued to follow up. We continued to send educational webinars and podcasts to them. We always followed up with a phone call. We would invite them to all of our events. And in time, she finally said, look, I talked to a lot of people in the hospital, doctors who have money to invest. I would love if you guys would come and do a talk with a group of them. And so now she's introduced us to another 8 doctors who are now multi-transactional. And I think it's not so much about finding those, at least for us, those Google leads. To me, those are very cold people who are willing to almost work with anybody. The juice really is in that referral business. And so that's where we spend the most of our time.
The referral business. Okay, that's a very beautiful topic and great transition. Let's talk a little bit more about referrals. Let's say I am just starting out a business. I have 3 people that I could call, but I know they're not really my ideal clientele. What can I do to increase my referral network?
Yeah, I first and foremost, I actually think you'd be surprised. So I've said this too, where I thought, oh, that client might be more blue collar. I'm not sure they can afford to purchase something in Toronto with the prices the way they are. And I remember Jazz had said to me, like, why would you take the opportunity away from them? Why don't we call them anyways? And so I think just checking some of your preconceived notions might actually do you well. You're doing yourself a disservice, because just by simply picking up the phone and calling people, we don't say, hi, Vijay, are you looking to sell your home? Or did you want to buy something? No? Okay, do you mind if I follow up in a month? Oh, and then they hang up on you, right? Our phone call is more, hi, Vijay, how are you today? Did you get the email we previously sent about purchasing pre-construction condos? Oh, no, you didn't see it? Oh, well, now that I have you on the phone, why don't I go over a bit about what purchasing pre-construction condos is like if you have some time. Oh, you do? Great. And then go down the education route. And you're never really asking for the business. You're simply providing information and education. And what they're eventually going to do is say, oh, thank you so much for your help. And here's what we do. We say, do you have an appetite for an investment property or an appetite to purchase something? Most people would say, well, yeah, I have an appetite for it. I can't do it, but I have an appetite for it. And then it's, oh, well, what do you mean you can't do it? Well, I don't have a mortgage pre-approval. Oh, have you worked with a mortgage broker? No, but I don't think, given my circumstances, yada, yada, yada. Well, now I can at least say, hey, why don't I introduce you to a mortgage broker? Why don't we just have the conversation? You might be right, but maybe there's some way, somehow, that mortgage broker can do something for you. Would you be interested in that? And then 9 times out of 10, people want to purchase real estate. Their goal is to buy more. We've all heard all the lessons about people creating amazing wealth by buying real estate. And so most people, if they can purchase, they will. And so it's just about making those connections, setting them up with the mortgage broker, and then following back up. And that has led to a lot of deals for us.
Got it. So at what point does it become too pushy compared to, hey, I'm actually here giving you genuine value, compared to, yeah, I'm trying to close, right? There's that fine line. How do you make sure you don't cross it?
Yeah, so we call it the sorting system. So I'm not looking to convince people to do anything. So oftentimes I'll be speaking with people, or people will respond on my TikTok videos, and the sky is falling, the bubble's gonna burst. All you real estate agents are just trying to like make money off of us, and you're giving us bad advice, whatever it is. I'm never gonna win those people over. And even if I was going to win them over, it would take a substantial amount of effort for me to do so. And so with people like that, I just put them in they're not interested in me. In fact, let's get them out of the database. They clearly want nothing to do with us. And now let me focus on the people who are interested. Then I say, okay, are these people interested now? Like, are they ready to take action now? And if that's a yes, based on some indicators maybe that they've said on the phone, like, yes, I already have my mortgage pre-approval, or yes, I was speaking with another agent already, or, I have some funds. I sold my kids' place in university, and I've come into some money. Those are all buying signals, right? And then, so those people might be ready now. So they go on a certain list that as soon as I get a project that I think would be interesting to them, we reach out to them. And then you have that group of people kind of in the middle who are like, I'm just not ready yet, right? And then you're just continuously following up with them. What we've done well with our follow-up is we don't always say, do you have an appetite? Sometimes it's a follow-up just to say, hey, how's it going? How's the house? Oh, everything's good? Oh, do you need a plumber or a painter? No? Okay. Oh, you do need a painter. Oh, great. Yeah, we have a list of painters who work in your area. I'd be happy to connect you with somebody. And so we call that our concierge service, where we're really not calling to sell people anything. We, in fact, don't talk about sales at all. It's simply just a courtesy call to see if they need anything for their property. And again, most people, once they're on the phone, because they're actually going to take that call, because I'm not always selling them. So it's like, oh, Laura's calling me again. That's so nice. I'd love to hear from her. And we have a great conversation. I don't sell them. And then what you'll find is over time, they will start to open up, and they will let you know when they are finally ready to buy something. And so just don't ask. Don't always be asking for the business. The other thing people do on social media as real estate agents is they give the education, and then it's, for more information, call me now. Or if you're ready to sell your property, hit me up in the DMs. And it's like they're always asking, and everyone's expecting the salesperson to ask them. And you kind of just become that sleazy person, right? And so how about you just give the information? Now, people will say, well, Laura, you're giving away all the trade secrets. I'm like, trade secrets? Everyone has access to Google. There are no trade secrets. There's nothing that that someone else can't find out if they wanted to. So how about you just be a great person and provide the information for free, so they don't need to now go and Google it. And you're going to find they're going to come to you. Only 2% of people plan on ever selling their home on their own. And so we're not looking for those 2%. I'm just looking for the 98%, which is a massive amount of people. So let's just focus our efforts on them. They're always going to come back to the person who gave them value.
That's amazing. Thanks so much for going through that. So I have a question about these follow-up. What is the frequency that you think has worked well for you that you'd recommend? Is it monthly, quarterly, annually?
So we follow up with our database 3 times a year is the mandate, with a phone call. But we're sending emails twice a month. and we're inviting people to events probably twice a year. Now, if a client is one of those people who I said, I'm interested, we follow up with those people more, right? Because we'll get a pre-construction project on our desk. We know that there's a list of people who are interested, so they get phone calls every single time we get a project. So those people get followed up with a lot more. But the people who really are saying to us, look, I'm not doing anything right now, we keep them in the database and we follow up with them, like I said, 3 times a year with a phone call.
Got it. So what are your thoughts on shooting a text message before saying, hey, can I give you a call? Is that a do or don't?
I am so guilty of this. I love text message. As I told you, I hate phone calls. I don't like making them. I get nervous. I get more nervous to make a phone call than to do something like this. So that's just my Achilles heel. I think what our team has done really, really well is we make the phone call. We do the thing that people just are not willing to do anymore. We all want to hide behind our phones because, again, it's fear of rejection. I'd rather be rejected via text message than rejected face to face, or like face to face or ear to ear, so to speak, if you're on a phone call. I think you should make the phone call. I've seen it work. I've just seen it work over the last 8 years. And you can do a lot more with a phone call than you can with a text. There's no tonality in text. There's no chit-chatting just for chit-chat. In a text message, you generally just get straight to the point. And sometimes someone will get back to you 2 hours later, then you get back to them 2 hours later, and before you know it, you haven't even really said anything and it's been 3 days. Where I can just get on the phone, 20-minute conversation, and sort them. Are they ready? Are they not ready? Have I built some better rapport? Have I said to them, oh, you're not ready yet, but would you like more information on purchasing pre-construction condos? Oh, you would? Have you seen my YouTube channel? I have over 150 videos where I'm talking about investing into real estate. Why don't I send you the ones specific to pre-construction condos? Like, you can only really do that on a phone call. You know what I mean?
Got it. Got it. So I guess some more nitpicky questions because I find this
Yeah.
really interesting, right? And hopefully the audience is benefiting from this. But let's say you give them a call, they don't pick up. Should he leave a voice message or not?
Okay, so our general rule of thumb is if we're calling someone just to make the concierge service call, right? The I'm not trying to sell you anything call, I'll leave a voice message because it's not urgent. It's hit me up when you're ready. And look, we have some people in the database who never answer our calls, but they also haven't unsubscribed for them emails. So we're going to continue to follow up until they tell us to F off, essentially. That's kind of our motto over here. If it is somebody who has said, though, I'm interested. I am interested in buying something. I just need it to be the right opportunity. Let's say an opportunity comes on our desk and we're giving them a call. We call them once, we hang up, we call them right back. Because most people are going to say, well, this must be urgent. If the same number is calling me twice, now a lot of our database do have our number saved in their phone, luckily, so they know who's calling. But usually someone will answer it if it's urgent. And then we do a text message like, hey, just to let you know, we have a project on our desk, but we only have 24 hours with these units. I wanted to give you first crack at the can, right? So that there is urgency behind that. And so I would definitely call twice and then leave a text message.
Okay. And let's say they don't respond to that text. What's the appropriate time to wait before following up again?
So we'll follow up the next day. We're like, it's kind of funny. I think because of the business that we're in, because we do so much pre-construction, not exclusively, but a lot of it, the urgency isn't even coming from us. It's coming from the developer. So when you're working a pre-construction project that has just started its first axis of sales, there's only a handful of realtors in the city who have access to that project at the very first access pricing. And we just happen to have a lot of great relationships with developers over the course of years. And so they'll say, look, like, you have these units. We once got units from a developer. They gave us 7 units and they said, you have 1.5 hours to sell these. That's it. And they said, if you do not sell them in an hour and a half, we're taking the units back and we're giving them to another realtor. And so, yeah, those people I'm going to follow up with again and again and again and again. Now, if again, you kind of have to gauge it, right? Like, am I going to piss the person off? Am I not? If a person has said to me, guys, I want a pre-construction project. I want to be on, we call it the hot list. I want to be on your hot list. I want first access. I don't care how many times. I'll call them until, again, they either tell me to F off or I've end up sold the units to somebody else.
Got it. Do you ever get into competing wars with your own clients? I mean, you call one person, they don't answer, so you bring to the next person, and then they both answer. What happens then?
Yes, we have. We've had a couple instances where we have multiple members making calls to interested parties, and we're selling the same chunk of units. And we've had two people interested in the same unit, right? And that is an interesting process. I mean, there's a bit of art to sales, right? It's as soon as we get off the call, it's like, oh, your client was interested in unit 1102. Oh, my client was also interested in 1102. Okay, well, let's take a look at our inventory. Do we have other units that are similar? Do we have unit 1002 or 1202? Because they would be the same layout, most likely. Or is there something in the same purchase price? You know, it's about finding ways to get creative where you can get two deals done at the same time and both clients end up being happy. There's been the odd scenario where we've sold one unit and the person came back to us and they were like, I'm finally ready for that unit. And we said, look, we sold it to somebody. And I think that only furthers the urgency. So next time when I call you, you need to pick up my phone
Yeah,
call
pick up.
because these things are going fast, right? So it only proves the point to the client that you can't. It's not about, oh, well, it's long weekend, let me wait till Tuesday. There is no waiting till Tuesday. The units are going to be gone, and so that's a lesson for everybody. And I think, but we can always try to go back to the developer and get something else or go to a different project. As salespeople, it's your job to find inventory to sell to your clients. And so if you tell me right now, well, there is no inventory on the market. Okay, well, find inventory. Create your own economy. You have to figure it out during COVID, the very first couple months. I mean, it was crickets. No one was doing any deals in real estate. And Jazz and I called around all of our developer relationships like, guys, what are you selling? And every developer's like, I'm not selling anything new right now. No one's going to buy anything. It's going to be a disaster. We're going to wait for like a year to sell anything. And we're thinking, oh my gosh, we have no inventory and no one's selling. What are we going to do? Well, we finally got on a call with one particular developer where we said, do you have any old inventory that you haven't sold? Because some developers, they go hard at the start and then they kind of have these straggler units, hard units that they can't sell. And we said, okay, look, I get it. You've increased the price, or these aren't the most advantageous units. There's something wrong with them. That's why they haven't sold, or not something wrong with them. Just maybe they're not good end user units, but maybe they're good investor units. What kind of deal can we put together? What can we do to incentivize our clients? And we came up with a great strategy, which was putting a rental guarantee in place. So the developer knew that they needed to get rid of units, but they had no buyers. We knew that we had buyers, but we had no units. And now we've essentially created our own project. And so I think it's really just don't accept the market for what it is. You have to figure it out. That's part of your job, to figure out how to get either inventory or get the buyer or get the seller, whatever you have to do. That's part of your job.
That's amazing because it's such a commoditized industry, right? And this is the value people get by working with you in Toronto. It's because you go the extra 10 miles that no one else does, right? And I mean, the buyers are paying the same fees or the seller, right? So it's like, might as well get the best. So I love that.
Yeah, sorry, just to follow up with that, we always say, let's provide wow service. So whatever we need to do to let the customer say wow at the end of it, whether it's couriering their checks because we got to get checks in a hurry as opposed to them driving out of their way to get to Toronto. Maybe it's picking up the keys when a client closes. Maybe it's when I'm on a phone call with somebody and they tell me, oh, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you last night. It was my anniversary with my husband and we were out to dinner. Now that's an opportunity for me to send them flowers or send them something to say congratulations or happy anniversary, right? So it's about listening more than talking sometimes, and that's how you're going to get those great little nuggets.
I love that. So you have given me so many great nuggets throughout this episode, and so one more nugget which you could possibly give is, what is a piece of advice you have for someone who's getting started in this industry, whether it is media or real estate or both? Give a piece for both.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go down the media route just because that's top of so many people's minds. I think as real estate agents, a lot of us are now starting to understand like the old billboard signs, bus stop signage. It might work a little bit, but you do need to get in front of people's faces. I think the sooner you can come to terms with the fact that you look the way you look, you sound the way you sound, it will only help you. And so taking that time to like look in the mirror and love yourself for exactly who you are and not putting that damn filter on Instagram every single time you post. Sometimes I still do it. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I still do the filter. but this is who I am. And if I was going to meet with a client in person, they would see exactly what I look like. They would know that I don't have my makeup all dolled up. I don't have hair extensions. I, I'm not wearing heels all day every day. So they're going to know. So the sooner you can just come to terms with that is who you are, the more comfortable you're going to be and the more freeing it is. Because I think at the end of the day, if you can do people who like you for who you actually, who like people who want to do business with you because they know you for who you actually are, is a lot more rewarding than putting on the suit or whatever it is, putting on the makeup, putting on the armor, and doing business with people because they don't know who you are and you faked it. And I think that's an important message, whether it's just on the real estate side or the content side. That should be the utmost importance for you, is just to put yourself out there, be confident with all your quirks and all your uniqueness, and you're going to find your people will some people will hate you for it, but what you're going to find is whoever's left over really, really love you for it. And it's a lot more rewarding.
I love that. That's a great piece of advice. What is something that you would do over if you had to rewind 8 years?
I probably wouldn't have gotten so high on my own supply for sure because of that one deal that I did. Um, and honestly, I would have learned the foundation a little bit faster. So I think I missed the opportunity to follow up with the clients that I had. There's so much business. I too fell into the trap of like new leads, who's the new hot person wanting to sell their property on my street, and I focused all my attention on them. And I think by shifting that focus to the people I already knew, I would have done a lot better at the start. And maybe I would have ended up running my own business as opposed to now being the VP for this company. But I think it all worked out the way it did. But I think, for new real estate agents, the key is in the follow up. There's no other way for me to put it.
That's great. And backing up to, I guess, the beginning of this conversation, you're talking about how during that year without any sales, you're talking about waking up at like 11, taking naps throughout the day, and they're not really high productive habits, but clearly you're doing very well now. So what are some habits that you think have helped you get to where you are now?
I have completely changed my mindset on that. I am now a creature of habit, so much so that if I don't follow my routine, I think people at the office even know, like, oh, Laura didn't do her routine this morning. Something's up. I'm very strict. So to me, the routine starts the night before. I go to bed. I'm in bed by 9 every night. I don't really stay up and watch a lot of TV. And I just kind of get ready. I get in the right mindset. I do a little bit of journaling the night before, like what went well today? What could have gone better? And then I go to bed kind of ready with the mindset already, like ready for tomorrow. I wake up at 5 a.m. Monday through Friday. I do a workout in the morning that starts with yoga, meditation, cardio to get my heart rate up. Then I take my dog for a walk, so I spend some time with my family, and that rejuvenates me and usually puts a smile on my face. I always eat a solid breakfast, and I'm usually at work by 7:45, 8 o'clock. And I try to be as strict to that as I can, because that to me just sets me up for success. The hardest part of my day truly is getting up at 5 a.m. So if I've done that, it's like the rest of this stuff is going to be a breeze compared to that. And so I've completely shifted my mindset.
That's amazing. Beautiful habits. And a question which I ask every guest that's on the show is, what is your favorite book and why?
Funny you should say about habits. My favorite book truly is James Clear, Atomic Habits. I read that book every single year, usually in January, just to kind of get me off on the right foot. I have a habit tracker on my phone where I'm tracking all my habits. I used to be a person that really focused on the end goal. So what's my weight? What's my income? All those, the numbers. That what I've realized, and by reading that book also made me realize, like, it's really, success comes out of doing the same thing every single day. And it's like usually not that fun, and it's usually not very exciting. Some days like today, I went from running straight without stopping 14 minutes last week. And today I did 15 minutes. So this week it's 1 minute. That's it. I'm only improving by 1 minute. You know what I mean? That's like a percent better. But if I can just keep doing 1% better, 1% better over the course of years, it's all going to add up. And you just have to have a bit of faith in that. Like just knowing that at some point, this is all going to serve me really, really well. And it's not those small little wins. It's not about the big wins short term. It's about those small little wins long term.
Absolutely. So Atomic Habits has been brought up handfuls of times in this podcast, and so those who are listening who haven't read the book yet,
just read the book.
Just read the book. That's exactly it. Well, Laura, this has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Where can our audience get in touch with you?
Probably the easiest, best way would be on Instagram. Well, I'm really on all social media, but Instagram is at Laura Stewart TO. And you can hit me up there if you want a copy of the guide. I'm happy to give it to you. Just DM me, like I said, and I'll shoot you guys the link.
Awesome. I'll put all this in the show notes. Laura, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Vijay.